I've been playing the Stronghold games since before I could even say the word trebuchet. I've probably spent over 1,000 hours in the first 3 Stronghold games, especially in Stronghold Crusader. Now, 2 decades later, Firefly has kindly sent me an early review copy for the definitive edition. So, have they managed to improve on my favorite game in the franchise, or are some things better left buried in the sand? Before we dive in, I want to make it clear that this video isn't sponsored. Firefly was generous enough to send me a review copy, but all thoughts shared here are entirely my own. Alright, if you've never played the original Crusader, here's what you need to know. It's a real-time strategy game from 2002 that took the core of the original Stronghold, where you build castles, manage your economy and raise armies to defend or attack, and dropped it into the unforgiving deserts of the Middle East during the Crusades. Every patch of fertile land becomes something worth fighting for. What set the early Stronghold games apart from other titles was how they blended the economic depth of city builders like Caesar or Anno with the fast-paced combat of something like Age of Empires. While the original Stronghold had a slower, more deliberate pace, Crusader was its faster, more competitive cousin. It wasn't really focused on a story campaign. Instead, it was all about battling a wide variety of AI opponents. There were 16 in total. The game did include 4 short historical campaigns that added a bit of flavor, but mostly acted as a tutorial to prepare you for the real challenge, the 2 Crusader trials, which added up to 80 missions. Once you were done with those, you had a skirmish mode. You could pick a map, choose your allies and enemies, set starting conditions and jump into battle. That's what gave Crusader nearly endless replay value. There was also a free build mode, which lets you construct your perfect castle at your own pace, without the pressure of incoming attacks. Crusader was a truly unique game, and honestly, nothing has scratched that same itch since. Until now. Let's go over what the definitive edition brings to the table, and why I think it offers amazing value for the price. The first thing you'll probably notice are the upgraded visuals and audio. All the original sprites have been carefully recreated with tons of added detail. Buildings now have more contrast, better shadows and really stand out on the map. Crusader always looked a bit flat and monotone to me, especially compared to the lush greens of the original Stronghold. But this remaster gives it a much richer, more vibrant look. Units also move a lot more smoothly, thanks to the added animation frames. I also love the small touches. For example, horse archers no longer all ride the same horses. Now you'll see a mix of different colors, which adds just a bit more life to the battlefield. If you play as an Arabian lord or lady, you'll notice even more visual variety. Churches are replaced with mosques, priests with imams, monks with temple guards, and fear factor buildings now have Arabian-inspired designs. It adds a lot of flavor and makes the factions feel more distinct. They've added new environmental assets too, like sinkholes, docks, ruins, ponds, and even Egyptian artifacts. There are also new animals like hyenas, condors, goats, and crocodiles. These show up only in the new missions, while the classic maps have been left untouched. I think they went this route to preserve the nostalgia for longtime fans. Personally, I would have liked to see some of those additions on the original maps too, but I get why they chose not to. You also get more options when creating your lord. You can play as a male or female character and choose between Crusader, Arab or Bedouin. There are even some unlockable lords and ladies that I won't spoil here. I love the added player expression. That said, female and Bedouin player models are noticeably smaller, so they can be hard to spot in a crowd, especially during big battles. It's not a huge deal for single player, but it might matter in multiplayer. The cinematics have all been redone. They're crisp and well made, though I do think the Lionheart lost a bit of his iconic look in the opening scene. The main menu also got a new design. It looks nice, but to be honest, I prefer the original. This new one doesn't feel quite as Crusader to me. The UI has been reworked too. The vast majority of it looks great, but I do think some of the new icons for the Arabian units feel a little generic. The original icons had more character in my opinion. Now for the one visual downgrade that actually affects gameplay. The option to lower walls, the keep and vegetation is gone. You can still flatten the whole map, but that's not as helpful if you just want to peek inside your armory and granary, or just want to see what's going on inside your castle. Maybe this has something to do with the game being rebuilt in Unity, but either way I really miss that feature. Audio-wise though, they knocked it out of the park. Lots of sound effects and voice lines have been re-recorded or remastered, and the result is very immersive. The sound of the waves crashing, desert winds blowing, it just feels alive. And the music, beautiful. Not only have the original tracks been remastered and slightly revised, but there are also brand new ones composed by Robert L. Euvino, the original composer. They blend right in and sound amazing. Absolutely fantastic work. Hopefully we can listen to them on YouTube or Spotify soon. Overall, Firefly did a great job modernizing the visuals and audio, while retaining most of what made the original so charming, except for the small nitpicks I mentioned. Visuals and audio aside, the definitive edition isn't just a fresh coat of paint. There's actually a lot of new content to dig into. Let's take a look. Everything from the original Crusader is here in its classic form, plus the Stronghold Extreme expansion with its 10,000 unit cap, special abilities and absolutely bonkers difficulty. Not my cup of tea, but if you're into it, it's all included. As for the new content, there are two brand new historical campaigns. One is called the Baron's Crusade, which teaches you how to fight against the new Bedouin troops. The other, the 7th Crusade, focuses on using those new units yourself. Each campaign consists of 5 missions and offers a slightly tougher challenge than the original historical missions, which is a welcome change. They're well designed and fun, though with the occasional rough edge. For example, in the Baron's Crusade, Mission 3 drops you way too close to an enemy castle, and you'll lose a big chunk of your troops within seconds. A little breathing room there would have gone a long way. Speaking of troops, let's talk about the 8 new Bedouin units. The Skirmisher is a cheap, fast unit that's great for defending your farms or harassing the enemy. He throws javelins at range with a cooldown between attacks, and uses a short curved knife and melee. Not very strong in a straight fight, but excellent for early pressure. The Sapper sprints straight for enemy walls and buildings and demolishes them quickly. He's incredibly fast, but has no armor, so timing is everything. I think they might be slightly overpowered at the moment. The Camel Lancer is a light cavalry unit that gives you a cheaper alternative to the Knight. Not as strong, but much quicker and easier to produce. A really nice addition to the roster. The Heavy Camel is a hybrid unit with a swordsman and an archer riding together. They can only shoot while standing still, and while they're versatile, they're not exceptional at anything. Jack of all trades, master of none. Personally, I prefer using either a knight or a horse archer instead. The Demolisher is what I think of as a tanky upgrade to the Sapper. He carries a large shield with his own health bar that blocks arrows. Once the shield breaks, he starts taking damage himself. He's immune to wooden stakes and can dig up pitch ditches, making him great for base breaking. That said, I find the unit slightly underwhelming. I still prefer the Sapper's sheer speed and effectiveness. The Eunuch is a massive unit wielding dual scimitars with a powerful area of effect attack. They're amazing at wiping out unarmored units and holding choke points, or just clearing enemy towers with a few swings. A bit of a niche unit, but very effective in the right situation. The healer does exactly what you'd expect. Stand him near injured allies and he'll slowly restore their health over time. I keep one in every tower, he's that useful. He does look a lot like the Skirmisher though, and his only real distinguishing feature is a red headpiece, which can make him hard to spot. And finally, the Ambusher. Similar to the Arabian Fire Thrower, but with stealth. They stay invisible until an enemy gets too close. I haven't used them much yet, but they seem like a high-risk, high-reward unit with a lot of potential. Although I'm a bit worried they've kind of replaced the fire throwers from the original mercenary post. They feel like a straight upgrade. Overall, I think the new units blend in well with the existing roster and add a lot of fresh options for harassment, economic defense, sieging and castle protection. I'm curious to see how Firefly responds on the balance front. Time will tell. Alright, back to the new content. There are 4 added trials called the Sands of Time, consisting of a total of 32 missions. Each trial is timed, and you get scored based on how quickly you complete them. Though you can turn this feature off if you'd rather take your time. These missions are a ton of fun, but in terms of difficulty, they don't really ramp up from easy to hard. The challenge level feels a bit random to me. That said, you'll notice a nice variety in map sizes, ranging from very small to absolutely massive. That's thanks to the increased maximum map size in the definitive edition, which now goes up to 800 by 800, 4 times the area of the original game's 400 by 400 limit. I'm really curious to see what map makers do with all that extra space. These trials also showcase all the new content I've mentioned so far, including the 4 new AI lords, which I haven't talked about yet. Here's a quick overview. First up is the Nomad, a Bedouin lord who relies on skirmishers and camel lancers. He's extremely aggressive in the early game and will constantly harass you, but he doesn't scale well. Once you're strong enough, you can waltz right into his flimsy castle. I really like his personality too. He's quite charming and distinct. Next is the Kahin. She's a Bedouin lady who favors eunuchs and heavy camels. She's a balanced opponent who can deal real damage if she gets ahead, but her castle isn't particularly tough to crack. Her cold, serious personality fits her role well. I think the voice acting works for her, though I can see how some players might find her a bit grating. Then there's the Jewel, niece of Sir Longarm. She plays a lot like the Lionheart, fast, aggressive and solid overall. Firefly says she prefers swordsmen and knights, but in my 40+ hours of gameplay, I haven't seen her use a single knight. She might be bugged in the pre-release build. She's positioned as one of the toughest lords, but right now she feels underwhelming. That said, her personality is great, confident, bold and fun to face. Finally, we have the Sentinel. He's a powerhouse with excellent defenses and devastating late game attacks. You won't see much of him in the early game though. His favorite units are crossbowmen, macemen and demolishers. If you let them build up, you'd better be ready for a fight. As for personality, there really isn't much. He comes off as robotic, almost like a husk of a man. He's also the guy from the original main menu screen, so that's a nice throwback for fans of the original. All these new lords and ladies are also available in skirmish mode, which has received a ton of new maps. And if that wasn't enough, there's still one more trial to sink your teeth into, the co-op trial. It's a 10 mission campaign that you and a friend can play through together. If you don't have anyone to team up with, you can also play alongside an AI ally of your choice. It's a very welcome addition. That said, fair warning, the maps are clearly designed with human players in mind, so you'll likely need to babysit your AI teammates or they'll get wiped out early. The co-op missions are cleverly designed and add strategic depth. For example, one mission gives one player access to stone, while the other controls farmland. This kind of resource division really encourages cooperation, which is great to see. The missions also reintroduce outposts from Stronghold Crusader Extreme, structures that spawn enemy units endlessly until destroyed. It's a fun twist that adds extra pressure to the gameplay. One thing I did notice is that not all the maps are unique to this mode. For example, the third co-op mission is just mission 76 from the main campaign, repurposed. I would have loved to see all new maps here, but that's a small nitpick in what's otherwise a fantastic addition. I didn't have anyone to play with during the early access period, so I ran the missions with the AI instead. That means I can't comment on the netcode just yet. Once this video goes live, I'll update the pinned comment with impressions on netcode and multiplayer performance. And that's all the new content Firefly has added, and it's a lot. After 40 hours, I've only scratched the surface. Keep in mind, this game is launching at just $20 in the US and Europe and £17 in the UK. That's incredible value. But we're not done yet. Firefly has also packed in a ton of quality of life improvements and bug fixes. I won't go over everything, but here are some of the most notable. Peasants no longer block you while placing down buildings. Only animals do now. Auto trading is finally in, and is probably the most welcome addition in the entire list. Double clicking makes units move at their own speed, while a single click keeps them moving with the slowest unit. Super useful. You can now use the mouse wheel to zoom in and out. A must if you're using the classic control scheme like me. Otherwise, you're constantly cycling through zoom levels. The chickens that are used to skip campaign missions are now infinite. Personally, I like the 3 mission limit, but I get why they changed it. You can't put shields on towers anymore. That was pretty overpowered in the original. I think the new healer unit makes up for it. Fire ballistas can't shoot over walls anymore, making them more defensive than before. And finally, skirmish and multiplayer now have more customization options, like banning specific units like catapults and more. With all that said, I want to quickly go over the game's technical performance. Overall, the game runs really well on my rig. I've got a 3060 Ti, an AMD Ryzen 5 6500G and 16 gigs of RAM. The only time I noticed frame drops was when fully zooming out on one of the larger maps. Your mileage may vary, of course. As for bugs, I did run into a few. The objective bar displaying the time until defeat glitched out once, though I could still complete the mission just fine. I also had an issue where dead units wouldn't disappear. And heavy camels have a bug where their health bar sometimes vanishes behind the rider. But the biggest disappointment is that the AI's decision making and pathfinding haven't seen much improvement since 2002. Swordsmen will just stand around if there's no direct path to the enemy, and units will sometimes attack walls instead of going for the Lord. It's nothing new, not game breaking, but I was really hoping they'd be a little smarter this time around. So technically the game is in a good state, but there's definitely room for refinement. And hopefully the duel gets patched soon so she actually starts using her knights. That was a lot to cover. I hope I've answered most of your questions before release. If anything changes, I'll update the pinned comment down below. So, what's my verdict? Aside from a few small issues, this is a legendary game that's gotten a legendary treatment. As a longtime fan of the series, it's genuinely exciting to say this is the best Stronghold has ever been, and that's saying a lot. With remasters and re-releases often going for $60 or more, it's refreshing to see Firefly putting players first, especially with an edition that easily offers dozens if not hundreds of hours of RTS fun. And I haven't even touched on the free and paid DLC coming later this year. If you're even remotely interested in the game, I highly recommend picking it up. And that's the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, liking the video and subscribing to the channel really helps me out. And if you want to join these fine folks over at my Patreon, the link's in the description down below. Thanks again to Firefly for the early review copy. It really was a dream come true. Alright, that's all for me. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace!